We have gone to great lengths in Brooklyn Bridge Park to really push the envelope on sustainability.
This is probably the world's first almost completely recycled park. Everywhere you look, and even places you can't see underground, are things that were done here that are revolutionary.
It's coming online at a time when Brooklyn has really come into its own.
I think in some ways as important as the building of Prospect Park in terms of its ingenuity, in terms of its importance for the community.
And I think seeing the intersection between the land and the water and that kind of active watery edge with the tide going up and down is one of the great things that our park gives back to the city.
This is where a very rich territory is to re-examine the nature of this as a constructed ground and how many layers of manipulation has the history of the site encountered, and what can you sort of rediscover about the water's interaction.
We kind of let the site show us what it was capable of. So what we did is we capitalized on the elements that we could, reusing structures like here on Pier 2, harnessing all the stormwater on the site to provide about 70% of the irrigation needs on the park.
And we had to be careful about our water usage and other utilities because we had no choice. We had to be economically efficient. The site was so large that we needed to address it in the most sustainable fashion possible. The wood that we've reused comes from the site, so we did not go out and purchase new wood. We were able to carefully deconstruct the cold storage warehouse and use the wood from that building for our park benches and cladding our buildings.
Southern yellow pine is some of the finest lumber in the world. It has so much resin, it's close to steel in tensile strength, and is virtually indestructible. Some of this wood, we've counted the annual rings, some of it's from before Columbus. The trees are from the 1300s. We've gone to the boat building community who have been using it for 4 centuries for planking and decking on classic American schooners. We've been asking their advice about how to mill the wood, how to orientate the grain towards the sun, and how to finish it. It's like a privilege to be using this material, actually.
The magnificent stone of the staircases and of some of the seawalls is taken from 2 old bridges, the Willis Avenue Bridge and the Roosevelt Island Bridge.
The Roosevelt Island Bridge, there's granite veneer stone, and we're able to reuse that to make what we call the granite prospect, which is essentially a big seating element to look out at the river. The Willis Avenue Bridge, which is made in a different era with big blocks of stone that almost have a kind of medieval fortress kind of quality to them. We've come up with a strategy to reuse them in moments through the park.
I think one of the really big distinctions between 19th century and 21st century is how much the places where we make landscapes bear the imprint of prior inhabitation.
Now we have to find the orphan properties, the formerly industrial infrastructure, the piers, the factories, the abandoned pieces of property no longer being used for commerce. That's the new frontier for urban park development in New York City, and I suspect in many other cities too.
So it was complicated to the degree that it was a bunch of varied existing conditions that I'm so pleased to say the design celebrates.
The biggest design challenge, I think, of all has been the enormity of the scale of the surrounding elements. That would include the Brooklyn Bridge, the BQE, the water, Manhattan across the way. Each one of the piers in Brooklyn Bridge Park is the size of Bryant Park.
The park's about the water, absolutely, because this is a large park by being 80 acres, but when you include the water plane of the river and that's opening out to the bay, it takes that 80 acres and makes it hundreds of acres in terms of your experience.
It's been characterized as a kind of a retreat of the industrial glacier. You know, there's this kind of edge that's receding now from the edges of the water.
It's a massive statement of sort of civic purpose and civic ideals that we in New York City, and this is something that Mayor Bloomberg has long espoused, that you can't have a great city without great parks.